Good morning, my friend. Let's take a quiet breath together and imagine this. You're sitting at your own kitchen table, maybe with a warm cup of tea or coffee, and for a moment, the world feels just right. There's no need to rush, no one demanding your attention. Maybe there's sunlight streaming in through the window. Maybe it's the gentle hush of a rainy afternoon. Or maybe it's simply the comforting silence that only your own space can bring. If you've ever found joy in these little pockets of solitude, you're not alone. In fact, you may be part of a growing circle of women, especially those of us over 60 who've discovered a different kind of happiness. It's the kind that doesn't need applause or company, the kind that isn't built on someone else's approval. It's the quiet strength of living life on your own terms, the freedom to choose how your day unfolds and what brings you peace. So many of us grew up being told that happiness meant partnership, family, or always being surrounded by others. And for many years, that was truer at least. It was the story we followed. We nurtured families, built homes, cared for friends and partners, filling our days with the needs and dreams of others. But as time goes on, life shifts. Maybe a spouse passes, maybe children move far away, or maybe you simply realize that your own company is not only enough, it's deeply fulfilling. Here at Elderly Active Living, we've heard from countless women who say the same thing. Living alone was once something they feared, but it's now a source of quiet joy. These women are not lonely, even though they spend much of their time alone. Instead, they are strong, wise, and beautifully whole. They don't feel the need to explain themselves or seek approval from others. In fact, many find that solitude is exactly what allows them to become the truest, most vibrant version of themselves. In today's video, we're going to gently explore the world of women who thrive in solitude. We'll meet 5 unique types of women who are not just surviving on their own, but truly flourishing. Each one has a different story, a different path, and a different kind of wisdom to offer. Maybe you'll see yourself in one of these women. Maybe you'll recognize a friend, a sister, or even your own mother. Or maybe, like so many, you'll realize that you're a blend of all 5 carrying a little bit of each strength and lesson within you. I want you to know, right from the start, that this isn't about celebrating loneliness or pretending life is always easy. It's about honoring the women who have learned to find peace in their own company, who have built lives rich with meaning, curiosity, and courage sometimes in the quietest corners of their homes. It's about shining a light on the different ways happiness can look, especially for those of us who've lived many chapters and still wake up each day with hope. So, if you've ever wondered whether it's okay to enjoy your own company, if you've felt different for choosing solitude, or if you're just curious about the stories of women living life boldly on their own, you're in the right place. Take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin this journey together. Because happiness in living alone is not only possible, it's more common, more powerful, and more beautiful than many people ever realize. And sometimes, the greatest adventure is learning that you are enough, just as you are. Part 1. The Justice Woman, the Decisive, Independent Spirit. There's a special kind of peace that comes from making decisions for yourself and truly trusting those decisions. This is the essence of what I call the Justice Woman. She's the kind of woman who stands tall in her own truth, quietly confident, guided by years of experience and the steady wisdom that comes from living a full, sometimes complicated life. Her clarity is not loud or forceful, but it's unshakable. It's the gentle strength of someone who knows herself and honors her instincts day after day. For the Justice Woman, independence isn't just a preference. It's a source of calm, an anchor that keeps her grounded no matter what life throws her way. She's the person who, whether deciding what to have for dinner or where to spend the next chapter of her life, rarely second-guesses herself. She's learned, over the years to trust her gut and weigh her options. Maybe she consults a list, or maybe she just listens to the quiet voice inside that says, "You know what's right for you." Let me introduce you to Margaret. At 73, Margaret's life reads like a novel full of chapters, some joyful, some challenging, all of them meaningful. After retiring from a long career as a high school principal in Boston, Margaret surprised everyone by packing up and moving to Santa Fe. When her friends and family asked why she'd leave everything familiar behind, she simply smiled and said, "I just needed more sun in my life." And she meant that in every possible way. Margaret had spent decades making decisions for schools, students, and family. Now, for the first time, she was choosing for herself, and that was enough. Margaret's story is just one example, but it's one many of us can relate to. Maybe you're the woman who decides without a committee, without hesitation how to spend your retirement, where to travel, or whether to renovate that guest room. Maybe you've spent your whole life compromising, weighing other people's needs, and now you're ready to finally put yourself first. That's not selfishness, it's sovereignty. One of the most beautiful things about the Justice Woman is her comfort with her own authority. She doesn't feel the need to consult others before she acts, and she certainly doesn't want to debate her decisions. For her, independence is not a wall but a window, one that lets in light, possibility, and the quiet joy of being accountable only to herself. She's often generous, warm, and caring, but she values her inner compass above all. You might recognize yourself here. Perhaps you're quick to decide, or maybe you take your time, reflecting and pondering until you're sure. Either way, you're the author of your own story. No one else gets the final say, and you wouldn't have it any other way. It's important to note, choosing solitude isn't about running from pain or being afraid of connection. The Justice Woman finds her fullest self when she's able to lead her own life, make her own calls, and enjoy the fruits of her own decisions. She knows that even the loving opinions of family and friends, while well-intentioned, can sometimes feel like interference. And that's okay. She's earned the right to be her own guide. So, here's to the Justice Woman. She reminds us all that living alone and living well is an act of courage and of love. Not just love for others, but for herself, and that's a lesson worth celebrating every single day. Part 2. High Priestess, the Inner Artist, Living Creatively. There's a quiet kind of magic in the way some women make peace with solitude. For the High Priestess, being alone isn't a condition to endure, it's a canvas to fill, a sanctuary to nurture. She's the inner artist, the creative soul, who finds her richest moments, not in crowded rooms, but in the soft golden spaces of her own company. For her, solitude isn't loneliness, it's freedom. The High Priestess listens deeply to her own thoughts, the way a musician listens to the subtle shifts in melody. Her days have a gentle rhythm, no rush, no noise, just the honest unfolding of what she loves. You'll find her happiest in the small rituals, a quiet hour reading with a blanket across her lap, a fresh page in her journal, a set of watercolor paints or knitting needles on the table. She doesn't need applause or anyone watching to feel alive. Her creativity is for herself, and that is more than enough. Let me tell you about Elaine. At 68, Elaine is a retired music teacher who traded the sound of bustling hallways for the hush of a small lake house in Michigan. Most mornings, she lights a candle and writes in her journal, letting her thoughts wander like sunlight on water. Her home is a collection of stories, a shell from the first beach she visited alone, an old teacup from her grandmother, a painting she started in a snowstorm and never finished because, as she says, it already said what I needed it to. Elaine has filled her space not with things for show, but with small reminders of moments that mattered, memories that still make her heart sing. The High Priestess finds joy in these little corners of life. She makes friends with quiet, choosing to listen to the whispers of her own heart. It might be in the rustle of leaves outside, the scent of lavender, the simple act of standing by the window and watching the seasons turn. She doesn't crave constant conversation or the buzz of the outside world. Instead, she thrives when she can let her mind wander, create, or simply be. Her solitude isn't a pause, it's the main melody. For many women like Elaine, the need for traditional relationships fades over time. There's no rush to find new love, no emptiness where partnership used to be. Instead, there's an outpouring of affection for nature, animals, neighbors, or for the work of her own hands. She may have had love stories in the past, or maybe she never felt drawn to that path. What matters now is peace, the deep, sustaining kind that rises from within. If you've ever lost track of time while painting, tending a garden, or simply sitting with your thoughts, you might be a high priestess too. Your happiness doesn't need to be proven, and your life doesn't have to fit anyone else's mold. It's enough that you find meaning and joy exactly where you are. So here's to the high priestess, the women who honor their creativity, who build beauty from the inside out, who give themselves the gift of quiet and color. Your world is vibrant, even if no one else sees it, and your happiness is whole, not in spite of being alone, but because you know how to make solitude sing. Part 3. The Nurturer, the caregiver who learns to love herself. There is a gentle strength in a woman who has spent her life caring for others. The nurturer, as I call her, is often the one who remembered every birthday, made every meal, and held together the fabric of her family, sometimes quietly, sometimes at great cost to herself. For decades, she may have put the needs of her children, spouse, or even friends above her own. But in this new chapter, living alone, something beautiful begins to happen. She discovers, often for the first time, what it means to truly care for herself. It isn't always an easy transition. At first, the silence can feel overwhelming. The phone doesn't ring as much, and there's no one asking what's for dinner or where the keys have gone. The days feel a little empty, and sometimes she wonders who she is when she's not needed. But with time and a little patience, new kind of joy appears. It's the joy of making breakfast just for herself, of buying fresh flowers for her kitchen table simply because they make her smile, of taking a long, unhurried walk with no destination in mind. There's a sweetness in learning to savor a cup of tea, in picking up a book she's always wanted to read, in writing down dreams that are hers and hers alone. Let me share Carol's story. At 71, Carol is a retired nursey woman who once was the anchor for everyone around her. She cooked, cleaned, and comforted for years, rarely stopping to think about what she might want. When her children grew up and moved away, and after her husband passed, Carol found herself alone in a quiet house, unsure of how to fill the space. "I didn't know who I was if I wasn't needed," she confessed. But little by little, she gave herself permission to put her own needs first. Now, every morning, Carol makes herself a full breakfast, the kind she used to prepare for her family. Only this time, she sits down and eats it slowly, savoring every bite because she matters too. The nurturer's journey is one of discovery. She learns that rest is not laziness, that saying no is not being unkind, and that solitude can be healing instead of lonely. She finds meaning in the small rituals, watering her plants, lighting a candle after dinner, taking a walk as the sun sets, listening to music that brings back old memories. She knits herself a scarf, tends to a little herb garden, or simply sits with a journal, writing about her own dreams and desires. Most importantly, she begins to understand that caring for herself is not a betrayal of her caring nature. In fact, it's the foundation of her own renewal. By filling her own cup, she has more to give the world should she choose to. She is no longer pouring from emptiness. Her life alone becomes not a void, but a space full of possibility and gentle self-love. So here's to the nurturer, the woman who is finally learning to give herself the love and grace she has given to so many others. If you see yourself in her, know that you are not alone, and that the most important person you can care for, especially now, is you. Part 4. Queen of Pentacles, the self-made woman, ruling her own life. There's something truly powerful about a woman who has built her own foundation brick by brick, day by day, never waiting for someone to save her, and never giving away what she's worked so hard to create. This is the Queen of Pentacles, the self-made woman, and her presence radiates quiet confidence. She is independent in every sense, financially, emotionally, and spiritually. For the Queen of Pentacles, independence is not just about paying the bills or keeping a tidy house. It's about knowing, deep down, that everything she has, she earned herself. She's seen hard times and weathered storms, but she's never lost sight of her own worth. She knows her boundaries and her values, and she refuses to trade her freedom for the comfort of having someone else around. Loneliness, for her, is never a reason to compromise. Let's meet Joyce. At 67, Joyce is a retired real estate agent who spent years building her career from the ground up. She remembers pounding the pavement, cold calling clients, and juggling the demands of being a single mother. There were months when the bills seemed impossible, but somehow she always found a way. Joyce raised 2 children, paid off her house, and when the time came to retire, she did so on her own terms. Now she lives in a sun-filled cottage decorated with art she picked out herself, surrounded by reminders of every step in her journey. Joyce is not opposed to love or companionship. She's simply no longer interested in giving up the ground she fought to gain. "I didn't work this hard," she says, "just to start compromising now." That's the heartbeat of the Queen of Pentacles. She is open-hearted, but her life is hers to shape. If someone comes along who values her independence and respects her history, that's wonderful, but she will never settle just to avoid being alone. Women like Joyce are often quietly generous. They donate to causes they believe in, volunteer in their communities, or support the next generation in small, meaningful ways. But when it comes to their personal space and resources, they are thoughtful and protective. They have a clear sense of their goals, whether that's travel, creating art, starting a new hobby, or even setting up a small scholarship for young women who remind them of their younger selves. The Queen of Pentacles lives with purpose. She finds meaning in the choices she makes every day, large and small. She is careful with her time, letting in only what brings her joy, learning to say no to obligations that drain her spirit. Her mornings are peaceful because she's not rushing to meet anyone's expectations but her own. Her evenings are full of small luxuries: a new book, a favorite meal, maybe a phone call with a lifelong friend. If you see yourself in Joyce, know that you are not alone. You are part of a growing sisterhood of women who are writing their own stories in bold, beautiful strokes. Your independence is not a shield against the world. It's a celebration of every lesson you've learned, every victory large or small, and every quiet morning you get to claim as your own. So here's to the Queen of Pentacles, the women who made their own way and who continue to create, protect, and enjoy a life that is entirely, wonderfully theirs. Part 5. The Sage, the Wise Woman, living peacefully and inspiring others. There's a rare and gentle strength in a woman who's lived long enough to let go of all the things that once weighed on her. The sage is that woman, the wise witness, the peaceful guide, the storyteller in the circle, and the quiet anchor for everyone around her. With decades of experience and a spirit that's been tested and softened by time, The sage doesn't just know about life, she understands its deeper rhythms. The sage moves through her days with a calm assurance. She's learned the art of living slowly, deliberately, and without apology. While the world spins ever faster, chasing trends and applause, she walks her own path, choosing what matters and letting the rest fall away. She is rarely interested in the spotlight. She doesn't need to compete, prove, or chase after approval. Her presence alone brings comfort, a living reminder that real wisdom doesn't need to shout. Let's meet Bernice. At 76, Bernice lives in a cozy cabin in the Colorado mountains, surrounded by memories and the hush of tall pines. Once, she taught history to high school students, guiding them through the lessons of the past. Now, she spends her time volunteering at a local community center, mentoring teenage girls. The questions they ask her range from love and family to finding their own sense of direction. Bernice never pretends to have all the answers. Instead, she offers her perspective honestly, with warmth and humility. They don't need someone perfect, she says, just someone real. For the sage, solitude isn't emptiness, it's a vantage point. She views her alone time as a sacred space, a place to reflect, remember, and make peace with everything she's come through. Often, her greatest gift to others is simply her presence. She listens deeply, speaks sparingly, and when she does share, her words carry weight. The sage is the kind of woman who can walk into a room, say little, and yet leave everyone changed for the better. You'll often find the sage serving her community in ways that feel natural and meaningful, leading a small book club, offering spiritual counsel, or simply being a gentle presence at neighborhood gatherings. She doesn't need to be the center of attention, she's content being a steady light for others to find their way. In her presence, people feel safe, understood, and inspired. The sage's wisdom is quiet but powerful. She's let go of regrets, released the need to hold grudges, and learned that forgiveness of herself and others, one of the greatest gifts. She finds peace in silence, beauty in simplicity, and fulfillment in helping others grow. Her connection to the world is chosen and meaningful, built not out of fear of being alone, but from the joy of genuine exchange. If you recognize yourself in Bernice, or in this gentle way of being, know that your life is a living example to those around you. You are a lighthouse, guiding others not with loud words, but with steady, loving presence. You show us all that there's a strength that doesn't fade, a beauty that deepens, and a kind of wisdom that comes only from living fully and honestly. So here's to the sage, the wise women who walk quietly and carry the stories, lessons, and light that others need to see their own way home. Conclusion. As we come to the close of this heartfelt conversation, I hope you're feeling a sense of recognition, maybe even a little pride, in the stories we've shared today. Each of the 5 women we've explored, the Justice Woman, the High Priestess, the Nurturer, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Sage, reminds us that living alone is not a lack, but a landscape full of growth, strength, and grace. Maybe you saw yourself in the decisiveness and quiet confidence of the Justice Woman, charting your own path with clarity. Perhaps you recognized your inner artist in the High Priestess, embracing the beauty of solitude, finding inspiration in gentle moments and silent corners. Or maybe you felt your heart reflected in the Nurturer, who, after years of caring for everyone else, is learning that she, too, deserves kindness, care, and time to simply be. Some of you might resonate with the Queen of Pentacles, fiercely independent and proud of everything you've built, never willing to compromise your hard-earned peace just to fill a space. And perhaps you carry the wisdom of the Sage, moving gently through life, inspiring others not with loud words, but by living your truth, day after day. What's truly special is that you don't have to fit perfectly into any one of these stories. You might carry pieces of each, or you may see yourself shifting from one archetype to another as the years unfold. That's the beauty of this stage of life. There's no single right way to be happy on your own. There's only the way that feels true to you. Loving your own company, cherishing solitude, and creating a life that feels complete, these are not signs of brokenness or isolation. They are proof of resilience, wisdom, and courage. In a world that sometimes tries to tell women, especially older women, that happiness requires someone else, you are quietly rewriting the script. You are showing the rest of us what freedom looks like. So as you finish this video, I invite you to take a moment and reflect. Which of these 5 archetypes speaks to your soul? Do you see yourself as the decider, the artist, the nurturer, the self-made woman, or the wise witness? Or maybe you're creating your own unique blend, with strengths and lessons that are yours alone. I'd truly love to hear your story. If you feel comfortable, share your thoughts in the comments below. Which woman are you, or which do you hope to become? And if you know someone who could use a gentle reminder that living alone can be a powerful, joyful choice, please share this video with them. We are stronger together, even in our solitude. If you found meaning in today's conversation, don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe to Elderly Active Living. Here, you'll find a community that celebrates you just as you are, independent, vibrant, and full of life at every age. Remember, you are worthy of joy, connection, and peace. Whether your home is filled with family or quiet sunlight and your own laughter, living alone is not about being alone. It's about embracing yourself fully and fearlessly. Thank you for spending this time with me, and until next time, may you walk your path with confidence and love, because you, exactly as you are more than enough.